Hey everyone, back in November, I posted a poll on my community tab of my channel. You have to be subscribed to see the polls. And I had four topics that I wondered if people would want to see in the month of December. So I'm a little bit behind filming this particular video, but I think the top winner, if I remember correctly, was the Beast Mode fragrance category. So I'm bringing you 10 really long lasting, super projecting, pretty stunning fragrances for cold weather wear. And by cold weather, for me, that's anytime the end of fall through winter into maybe even early spring, depending on what part of the world you live in and if temperatures stay cool. The only rule that I gave myself is no more than one from any particular house. So I don't need to say with every fragrance that it lasts a long time and it projects. They all do. Let's start off with one that I have loved since first sniff. My husband loves it too. We both wear it. It sits on his shelf, but I have worn it as well. And it's one of the only fragrances that I actually have a backup bottle of still. I sold most of my backup bottles as my fragrance collection started to grow for the channel. Just didn't make sense to keep them. I do have a backup of this one. This is from Carolina Herrera and it is called Sandal Ruby, one that I loved upon first sniff and is just so fantastic as a very special occasion fragrance. I picture this being worn in very cold weather, obviously, but in the evening to special galas, affairs, balls, anywhere where you want your fragrance to really, really stand out truly. Some of the primary notes in the fragrance are some spices at the top, including cinnamon and cardamom, and they give it that sort of wintry, spicy, almost Christmassy feel to it. There's tuberose in the middle of the fragrance. I feel like there are other florals, even though tuberose is called out as the primary floral. And it's very vanillic and ambery in the base. There are some pretty strong aspects of this fragrance. It has a very sort of thick, almost syrupy feel to it and is pretty pronounced. So spicy, floral, ambery to me, vanillic in the base, and is fantastic, long lasting standout of a fragrance. It smells very sort of regal and royal in a lot of ways. So this is a very, very special fragrance. And although we wear it here, working out of the house, we work from home. This is one that if you wanted to classify your fragrance for occasions, I would say is very much a special occasion going out fragrance. Sandal Ruby. Next is a powerhouse fragrance with a lot of strong feminine vibes to it. This is from Bond number 9. It is called NoMad or Nomad for the regular ones of us pedestrian folks. This has a predictable, familiar base of amber and vanilla and a feminine oud. The oud here, some ouds are pretty masculine and can be challenging to tolerate. I find the oud in this fragrance very easygoing. The other primary players in the fragrance are a soft, delicate rose note. The rose comes across almost as like right when a fragrance starts to blossom. It's still pretty young, but it's blossoming. And so it's starting to become fragrant, but it still has some of the delicate nature of a young rose in it as well. And then there's a fruit accord as well, made up of quince and pear and blackcurrant. So there's this sort of sweetness to the fragrance that keeps it on the feminine side between the fruit aspects, and the fruit feels sort of like just a sweet, like a fresh sweetness to it with that bright, nice rose, and then the heaviness of the base, which as I mentioned, is made up of amber and vanilla and oud. And I think this is just feminine sensuality in a bottle. Again, this is another fragrance that screams nighttime, maybe more early evening than this one, which is maybe like 8 p.m. and afterward in terms of its strength and potency and thickness. This one is a little bit sort of thinner in texture than this one, Sandal Ruby, which comes across a little bit more sort of syrupy and thick and creamy even. This is a little bit sort of lighter in texture, although it is very strong in projecting as well and super long lasting and very, very highly feminine. Fantastic. Date night fragrance has a lot of allure. I think it's one of those that will draw people to you because it has a little bit of a mysterious nature while still staying fairly sort of light in the air as well. Nomad. This one is newer to my collection. I've only done one full day wear and some drive-by sniffing, and I've worn it overnight as well and tested it a couple of more times. But I can tell you with no doubt that Istanbul from Unique A Luxury Fragrances. This is an extrait de parfum is a powerhouse. If you like Love, Don't Be Shy from Killian, if you like that sort of marshmallow fluffiness and you wanted that fragrance to have even more heft to it, be more pronounced pronounced, more projecting, even longer lasting. This might be a good alternative for you. It definitely has this very sort of strong marshmallow feel to it, marshmallow scent. It's dense, it has a lot of longevity. It is really, really projecting as a fragrance, a lot of sweetness and softness. Some of the notes that are called out: woody musk, vanilla, a little bit of citrus. I don't really get a whole ton of citrus in here. Also has neroli. Again, the neroli, if it's in here, is super duper soft. Some jasmine, so there is sort of a floral touch, but it's very much a sort of dense, very projecting, strong marshmallow fragrance. It's kind of like Love Don't Be Shy on steroids, in my opinion, and is fantastic. Very feminine, very strong. Be careful spritzing this, particularly in daytime settings when you are around other people. If it's nighttime, go ahead and let loose on this one. But this is one that could easily be worn in daytime settings if you take care to spray lightly. I think you might get away with NoMad in the daytime, although I think of this more as an evening fragrance. And definitely Sandal Ruby is for the nighttime. This one is for the streets. I'm just kidding. It's not for the streets. It is for formal occasions, but it is for nighttime. When I first tried the next fragrance, I thought it was okay, but I didn't know I needed a bottle until I tried it in store, sprayed it on, walked around, let it dry down, and then just knew that there was something about this fragrance that was really captivating to me. It called my name. And I thought about it overnight. I thought about it into the next week. I thought about it all the way until it showed up in a Joma Shop Parfums de Marly sale and I snagged it. And it is Altair in this beautiful burnt orange, pumpkin colored bottle. I love this color so much. It really screams fall to me, and I adore that about it. This was marketed toward men, but I find it to be a very, very unisex scent. For me, this is a somewhat like slightly spicy vanilla that is bright and it has a freshness to it, but also just this like sensual allure. I wanted to share some of the notes in the top: orange blossom, cinnamon, in the heart, a bourbon vanilla, which to me tends to be a thicker, more sort of syrupy vanilla. Elemi, which is a resin that has a little tiny bit of greenness to it. And in the base, there is Gaiac wood, ambrox, praline, and musk. I don't find this to be a heavily musky fragrance. There is a little bit of a musky overtone to it, though. It's mostly, for me, vanilla, soft spices, and I can't tell you what else. There's something else. It's almost like this, maybe this clean woodiness that undergirds the fragrance that I find hard to describe, but I think it is a very classy vanilla and it has such presence in a room and on me. It's a really, really lovely projection and it lasts forever and ever. And it has this warmth and pleasantness to it that makes it sort of like a cocooning fragrance at the same time that it is classy and elegant and refined and just beautiful in so many different ways. And I'm a little irritated with myself that it took me so long to get on the Altair bandwagon. Again, this is another one of those fragrances that was so heavily hyped when it was first released that I wondered if I could trust even my fellow reviewers, and that they weren't just sort of caught up in the hype of a new Parfums de Marly fragrance, which sometimes happens with this house. But it is worth all the hype. This is a really, really beautiful, long lasting, fresh, and elegant vanilla that just, I don't know, there's something about this that hovers in the air so beautifully and is like mesmerizing to me. Obviously, none of these fragrances are for the faint of heart, and definitely maybe not for beginners. Perhaps Altair would be friendly to beginners, to the fragrance world. Maybe the boldest of beginners would like Istanbul. The rest of these fragrances, I think, are very particular and persnickety in many, in many ways, and might feel like a bit of a rough fragrance ride for people that are new to the fragrance world and want predictable fragrances. I bring that up because this next fragrance is a love or hate for people. This is from BDK and it's called Tabac Rose. First of all, I really appreciate that although the BDK bottles are all the same with the same shape, same type of cap with different colors, I find this label to be the prettiest. It has a floral relief on it that I just think is like subtly elegant on this. Tabac rose. So, yes, there is tobacco in the fragrance, a beautiful rose note. There's a chocolate accord. There is a little bit of patchouli. This fragrance, hang on, y'all. This is one of the strongest, most pungent fragrances, and it's one that if you love it, or you're repulsed by this altogether. I find this to be so fantastic as a wear. I love the balance of the three main players. The rose alongside this almost like dry tobacco note, alongside a little bit of a chocolate nuance. It's like a dark chocolate, in my opinion. I find this also to be a very alluring fragrance, super sexy. This is a femme fatale type of fragrance for those of you that are not afraid to pull off big, bold scents on nights that you want to be noticed. This is that kind of a fragrance. It will definitely garner you attention because it is unique and different. It borders on being almost a little bit animalic as a fragrance. It's definitely got a little bit of roar kind of quality to it, and at the same time remains incredibly elegant as a fragrance. Tabac Rose, nothing else like it in my collection that I can point to. Pretty unique, definitely one to try first, as with most of these, and especially the ones coming up here. Friends, if you want to be noticed for your beast mode fragrance, if you want to stand out unapologetically, super boldly, if you want to go where no man has gone before, I think I just gave myself hiccups. Hang on a second. Allow me to introduce you to none other, the one, the only. I would say often imitated and never duplicated, but I don't think anybody tries to imitate this. This is Amouage Overture, a powerhouse of a winter fragrance. Don't try to wear this in warm weather. You will suffocate yourself and plants will wilt and die around you. This is primarily to me a really soft leather fragrance. The fragrance isn't soft, but the leather tones in here are soft, okay? But it is leather. It's very leathery. It has another fresh rose, kind of like the rose that shows up in NoMad. If you think about roses that are picked and in a bouquet and they're starting to blossom, like I said, they have that sort of very fresh rose scent to them. This also has, for me, a noticeable apple note that lends to me this freshness and this sweetness to the fragrance. Kind of in that order. When you smell it, the leather comes through first and foremost, then the rose, and then that apple note. A few other notes in this fragrance that I want to call out: saffron. Saffron also sometimes comes across a little bit leathery, maybe a little spicy to me. Myrrh, which adds sort of a resinous touch to it, cinnamon, and a little bit of incense. But the incense I don't pick up very much at all in this fragrance. Leather, rose, apple, spiciness. And it is fabulous. Very appealing, I think, to men. My husband loves this on me. I've gotten complimented on this out in public. Amouage Overture, very strong, very strong. It can be very overwhelming if you overspray this fragrance. That's probably the case with most of these fragrances, this one in particular. But a beauty, a gem of a fragrance. Again, this one is unique. I don't have anything else that smells like this in my collection. It stands on its own. Very new to my collection and my scent of the day, and I like it so far. I'm not sure that it's going to turn into a love. We will see, but there's something appealing about this fragrance that made me want it. And this is from Thameen. It is called Bravi, and Bravi means like clapping at the end of a great performance, like all of the yay that people do, a crowd does at the end of the performance. This is primarily a honey and tuberose fragrance and absolutely one to try first, just like the rest of these. People have loved this or they like recoil from it. And I've actually had that experience with some Tamine fragrances as well. Blue Heart, I'm looking at you. I talked about that in my worst buys of the year video of 2024. This one is one that I tried at first and I didn't think I liked it, but I kept sniffing it. I kept putting my nose, where I had sprayed it and coming back to it. And as it continued to settle down, it develops so lovely. It goes through all of these phases. It opens up a little bit citrusy and almost syrupy in the opening, and then it settles into this almost like slight plasticky phase. So you have to make it past that, and that's the first few minutes of the fragrance. And then you're rewarded with this really warm, sort of like comforting tuberose honey. There's a walnut milk, if I'm not mistaken, in the fragrance. Hold on, let me double check here for y'all. Yeah, a walnut milk accord in the base, vanilla and tobacco as well. But the primary players for me are the tuberose and the honey. And then there's something really sort of soft and delicate as an undercarriage to this fragrance. And I think it has a lot of appeal. It feels very mature as a fragrance. This isn't one for those among you that want to smell youthful. This will feel like a mature, almost matronly scent. And there's something a little bit old school about it that I like too. It is pretty strong. I've only got 3 sprays on, friends. Back of the hand, back of the hand, back of the neck. Because I don't want to choke my husband out. We are going out for date night tonight. It is Saturday night. We are going out to a restaurant. I don't want to offend him and I don't want to offend other people, but I do want to smell feminine. I do want to smell mature and I want to smell pretty. And I do think this is a very pretty, comforting fragrance. So it's my first time doing an absolute full day wear. I've done a lot of testing of this fragrance from actually a couple of samples. I've had a couple of samples now at this point, and I finally went for it. And it's lovely, y'all. It is lovely. You do have to get past the opening is beautiful, and then it has this sort of, like I said, plasticky phase for just a few minutes where you're like, "Ooh, I think I made a mistake." If you can make it over that part, it doesn't smell bad. It just is not what you expect. Make it over that part, and a few minutes later, you are rewarded with this beautiful, comforting honey tuberose gem of a fragrance that has this like vanillic, soft undercarriage to it. It's just lovely. It's lovely. I want to talk next about Initio's Addictive Vibration, which is fabulous. It has been compared a little bit to Alien, like the original Alien, and I think there are some similarities, some strong similarities between the two of them. This one feels a little bit more honey to me in the same way that Bravi has honey in it, and the next fragrance I'm going to talk about has honey as well. I have to read you the description on the Initio website because it's just one of those outrageous descriptions that just makes you laugh. It reminds me a lot of these like overly poetic, waxing poetic descriptions that you get on Fragrantica from people that have way too much time on their hands, unveiling a body of lustful scent in a magma of flesh and fiery blend of musk and honey. I'm already like, wow. And then addictive vibration captivates with its heart of orange blossom and vanilla orchid. The bodies succumb to arousing waves of attraction, lingering in their wake, a trail of carnal dependence. These remind me of the kids in English class that just couldn't get enough of the segment of class where you get to write poetry. And they took out their thesaurus and just went crazy. Main notes on the website: apple, blossom, I think it's apple blossom, orange blossom, honey, vanilla, and musk. So I do get a lot of honey in this fragrance. This has something in it that comes across like really lovely grape juice, and it's like a perfumey grape juice that is fantastic. Beautiful muskiness. It is like a carnal muskiness in the fragrance and that honey, and it is amazing. Addictive vibration, beautiful name. This is a very addictive fragrance to me. I can't stop sniffing it when I get by the bottle and open it, and just when I do those little drive-bys, like I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I need to wear this fragrance soon." Absolutely beautiful. It does give me alien vibes, even thicker, and I this piece of lint just flying around. Go away. No one invited you to the video. It is thick. It's thick, thick. This is two thick thighs and a Brazilian butt lift thick. This is somebody that used Rogaine and their hair is growing out super thick, thick. Okay. Very thick fragrance, very long lasting. That grapey, honey, floral, beautiful, sweet femininity, muskiness in the background. Absolutely glorious as a fragrance. And it just wears so lovely on you all day. The last fragrance, and then I have an honorable mention, so stick around, is maybe the most challenging one, I think, for people to deal with out of all of the recommendations that I've had. Again, one that people either are absolutely mesmerized by or they don't get it and it's kind of weird to them. This is from Moresque. It is called Sandal Granada. And this is another fragrance that has prominent honey, but the honey doesn't show up until probably the mid and the dry down of this fragrance. When you first spray it, you get almost like this dusty leatheriness, a little bit of incense, and some rose in the fragrance, like a really distant rose note. As it dries down, though, the prominent players, it is called Sandal Granada, is sandalwood, and the leather stays there, but the sandalwood and the honey come out to play, and they are just lovely sort of co-pilots for this fragrance. There's also a little bit of like a smoky incense in the distance in this fragrance. And so in that sense, it's a fragrance that evokes a sense of mystery. It evokes, far away lands, exotic lands that we haven't traveled to ever. I think of like Indiana Jones, like those movies and the feeling that you get from watching Indiana Jones go out into the jungle and distant territories or out into deserts rather, because this fragrance for me evokes more of like a desert type of faraway exotic land than a jungle land. So sandalwood and honey are the primary players in the fragrance. The leather and the rose and the incense sort of become supporting actors as the fragrance journey goes on. Very strong fragrance. This can be incredibly suffocating if you spray too much, and alluring and beautiful and mesmerizing if you spray just a little bit, just enough for someone to kind of get a light whiff a light whiff on the distance and be mesmerized by it and want to come in for a sniff. I almost forgot to talk about this fragrance among the ones when I recorded this video. And so this is a segment from a recording I'm doing in the future that I'm plopping back into this video because it definitely deserves a spot. And I just didn't see it on the table as I was talking about the fragrances. This is Sirrah from Tiziana Terenzi. And yes, it has that very sort of classic Tiziana Terenzi musk. So if you're averse to that, you will not like this fragrance. But if you like that musk, this is a stunner. It's mostly musk with a sort of woody, like a clean, woody, linear background. I don't even remember what the notes are in it, but it's almost like a cedar type of linear, woody note in the background with musk as a primary player. And then there is this almost like bubblegummy passion fruit combination of scents along with a beautiful classy rose in this fragrance, like a very, very fresh but pungent, strong rose. It is beautiful. It's pretty mesmerizing in the air, captivating. Husband loves this. He thinks it is super sexy and it projects for days. Most of these fragrances do for days and for miles. Everyone will smell you when you have this on. And it goes on and on forever. This is a must try from the house if you like musk and rose and fruity tones. It's not the fruits in here are not like your berry types of fruitness. Like I said, it's passion fruit. I want to say there's quince in the fragrance too, but I pick up mostly like the almost like tart juiciness of passion fruit alongside the sweetness from this bubblegummy nature to this fragrance. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful with the rose and the musk. Fantastic. My honorable mention is one that some people find to be masculine, and that's why I'm putting it here at the end in comparison to the others. It's on my husband's shelf, but I love it as well. And I think it's worth the crazy price tag, although you can always get things on sale. I'll link all of these fragrances below. And this is from Clive Christian. It's called Blonde Amber. This one is amazing on my husband. It smells different on him than on me. It's got the kitchen sink of notes. And so rather and try to tell you about this, I will tell you that this smells spicy and fruity and leathery and tobacco-y and boozy and ambery and amazing. It's just all of the most beautiful fall and winter notes all together in one. A powerhouse of a fragrance. This reminds me of old money. Of course, I'm joking around when I say that, but the person that is quietly wealthy and can pull off a fragrance like this with a spray or two and command the room, absolutely beautiful. I think there's even florals. If I remember, there's tuberose in the fragrance. But as I'm sniffing just from the atomizer, I'm getting almost like this plummy, kind of like sticky dates and spicy fragrance, excuse me, spicy fragrance with a base of amber and tobacco and I believe rum or is it cognac? There's a boozy note in the fragrance that has a little bit of sweetness to it. Maybe it's rum and is just fantastic. All things like old cigar lounge with the really expensive exotic wood paneling, the leather couches, the gentlemen in their finest suits. They're sipping on amazing spirits that cost a lot of money. Maybe they have some cigars that are pulled out. They haven't smoked them yet, but you can smell sort of the tobacco nature of the cigars and dried fruits. Absolutely glorious fragrance. Blonde amber lasts forever and ever and projects. You only need a spray or two of this. Let me know your thoughts on these fragrances. What are some beast mode fragrances that you would recommend for viewers to try out? Drop those down in the comments and let me know if you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. Take care, friends.